In this video, I will talk about how Blazor saved my day when I'm working with the .NET MAUI app. So tune in. Hi everyone, welcome to another video. Today I will talk about .NET MAUI, of course, but I will also talk about Blazor, and I will talk about a real scenario that happened when I'm working with my hobby project, an app that I have for saving my catches when I am out and fishing. And I started that app with Xamarin Forms, but now I'm working with bringing it to .NET MAUI. So I have decided to use a component library for some components that I need that are not in .NET MAUI. So this video will not be about a specific component library. It's more about how you can solve this type of problems. But this component library had a calendar control that I wanted to use. But the thing was that that calendar control was not really what I wanted to use, and not like the one I have used before. And if I go to the documentation, they say they have a scheduler control. That sounds more about what I needed when I read the documentation. But the thing was that that control was not ready for .NET MAUI yet. So then I think, what should I do now? Should I go with another component vendor, open source, or should I build my own calendar? I don't want to do that because I don't have that much of time to work with my hobby projects. But then I start thinking, maybe they have another control for Blazor. So I went to the Blazor page and see that they had the scheduler for Blazor. So then I realized I can use Blazor Hybrid just for that control, just for that page. So thanks of that, Blazor saved my day. I saved a lot of time because I can use Blazor inside of my .NET MAUI app in a really simple way. And I don't need to connect to a web server because Blazor Hybrid let me have those controls built in. So I will show you how I went for a pure .NET MAUI app and added Blazor to it. So I will open Visual Studio and I will show you how. So here is my project. The app is called Catch Logger and you find it on App Store. Right now that is the Xamarin Forms version, but hopefully I will complete the .NET MAUI version soon because I don't have that much work left to do. And the biggest problem I had is that I changed my own library, TinyMVM, and did a lot of breaking changes for .NET MAUI. That has been most of the work is to handle that, but I think the library became much better when I did that. So the first thing you need to do when changing a project to use Blazor, if you have created with the .NET MAUI app template that I have done, not the hybrid Blazor template, is that you need to go and change the first line of the CS project file and the SDK property here to Microsoft.NET.SDK.Razor. In a normal .NET MAUI app, it's just Microsoft Net SDK, like this. But to have Blazor components in here, you need to have Razor. And in this case, I decided to not have the components in a separate library because I have a lot of things I want to use from the component already in this project, like services, repositories, etc. So that's the reason I have my components inside of the same project. I basically have all the code in the same project here and have different folders for it. Instead, the only thing I shared is entities and models because the models I shared with my server as well. So the next thing we need to do is go to the MAUI program and we need to add a few lines here. We need to add this builder.services.add MAUI Blazor web view, and that brings the dependencies to the project that you need. And to make it easier to debug this, you should also add the Blazor web view developer tools. And if you're unsure how to do all of this, you can also create a new project on the side so you can compare what have they added in that template for the Blazor project and what do you have already in your pure .NET MAUI project. But for sales project, it's only those two lines you need to add. And then you maybe have something for your component library, as I have here at Telerik Blazor. So the next thing we need to do is to create a www root folder, because we need to have this index.html. And I copied this one from an empty hybrid project. And the only thing I have done here is that make sure that I have the references to CSS is right here. For example, I have my Telerik CSS, I have my catchlogger.styles CSS, that's default, and then I have app CSS. And you need this app CSS because if you look here, you will have this Blazor arrow UI. And this will be visible always if you don't have the CSS. I had that problem when I created it first. Why will it not work? Why do I have the error? But then I realized I don't have the CSS, so it will not be hide even if I don't have an error. So you need this Blazor arrow UI and so on. And you can of course modify them if you want to and add other CSS stuff here also if you need to do that. So the index.html file, the content will be loaded inside of this div id app, and that is something you specify in your page. So if you go to the page where I host this, is this calendar view here. And here I have a Blazor web view, that is the whole page. And here I specify the host page, that is the index.html file that I have in the www root folder. And here you can see specify the selector, and that's where the component, the Blazor, the Razor component should be inserted into the index.html file. So here I imported the namespace for my component here that I've created a separate folder called web components here, calendar.razor. And then I add this in component type, I have the namespace alias, and then the name of the component calendar. And compared to what you get in the default template for Blazor Hybrid, you will get the main component that had a router. This component will not have a router because it should not be able to navigate inside of this. I just want to show this for the user. And this, in this case, is the Telerik root component and Telerik scheduler. But as I said, this is not sponsored by Telerik. You can use this whatever component you want to use. And in this case, I already had a view model that I have from the Xamarin Forms version. So I just inject that one to the component by using this inject calendar view and give it a name. So in the onInitialize async method, I call viewModel.initialize because when you're using TinyMVM, this will be handled by the framework, but that's not the case if you do it inside of a Razor component. So you need to do that by your own. And then I call the load items method that I hear here, that it will read from the view model and update the UI. And I also, in this onInitialize async, subscribe to property changes, because otherwise it will not update when the view model updates. If you're doing SAML, this will be handled by the SAML framework, but in this case, you need to do it by your own. So I have property changed, and if the property name it items, I load items again, and that means I update the UI. But I also listen to collection changed, because if you have an observable collection that I have here, you need to listen to changes, because when you're adding an item to an observable collection, that will not trigger property change. It's only if you change the reference of the project, and that means you're creating a new observable collection. But of course, you need to handle if collection is changed, if items are added, removed, and so on. So the only thing I do then is I call the load items method again, and I read from the view model and I update the UI in the component. So let's run this app and see how it looks. So here we are inside of the app. So we go to this page and to calendar. I realize this is in Swedish, but I guess you understand. So here we have the calendar, and it does exactly what I wanted to do. I can add some cadges here, right? A pike, a sander, and it doesn't really look like web, even if it is a web UI that runs natively inside of this app. Of course, you can style this. I have not done any styling for this yet. So that is how Blazor saved my day. At least it saved a lot of time for me, because I don't have to develop this calendar by myself. I can just use the one that already are there, but with Blazor instead of SAML. So thank you very much for watching this video. If you like it, please press the like button and subscribe to my channel if you not already are doing that. Thank you very much for watching. See you next time.